Okay. But a lot of you guys are going, oh wow, this guy's actually making a video. Watch out, we got a badass motherfucker over here, you know? So I had a very interesting discussion with a streamer that I watched on Twitch a couple of days ago. And the topic was about realism in video games. So I wanna start off real quick, right? If somehow, I'm not gonna mention his name because I don't want people, you know, I don't want to embarrass him or anything like that or draw unnecessary. No, I'm muted the mic. Yeah, I don't want to draw unnecessary attention to him. I'm not gonna mention his name. So, if you somehow by chance find this video, this is not an attack on you. This was a very interesting discussion, you know, considering I'm pretty sure a lot of you are quite aware of the attack on the male gaze, right? And it is often led with the notion of realism needs to be introduced into video games. So his logic, right, was he plays Genshin a lot, and he also does Fire Emblem. He's a huge Fire Emblem fan. But you know, he was playing Genshin Impact. I think he's put like a pretty good number of hours in it. And one of the things he recommended for inserting realism in video games was the removal of the high heels with female characters like Eula. It's not really high heels, you know, that's boots, but you know, you can constitute those as heels in some way, shape, or form. Those are boots, you know, Eula, Raiden, you know, Kaching, you know, any kind of character that has like high heels or boots. He was suggesting some type of movement penalty. Like if the character has like high heels on and they're on the beach, they shouldn't be able to move. Like they should suffer some type of movement penalty.
Evil.
And I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you trying to change the meta, right? Where you have all this beach, you know? Like no one, like, and I made like suggestions saying like, you know, it's a horrible idea because, and he wanted like an entire mechanic centered around that idea.
You can't risk catching
And I said, that's a horrible
because it might
idea,
turn into something
because
more
you would
serious.
dramatically
And if that
change the
happens,
playstyle of some of these characters to
go
the
avenging
point
my
where
clan by picking on the
they're unplayable in certain areas. That's stupid. Like you'll be going through the party setup screen so often that you would be tired of playing this game. As a matter of fact, you would more than likely set up parties where it's just all males, just to like avoid that movement penalty. And then he also brings up another point that ends up like shooting himself in the foot, right? Like if I'm playing a character in high heels, he wants a movement penalty because it's unrealistic, right? For a woman in high heels to be walking around the beach, right? You know, the heels digging into the sand and there's no movement penalty. He wants something like that. But at the exact same time, he shoots himself in the foot, suggesting that all the female characters with high heels should just be wearing boots. Right. So you just want an entirely different custom outfit, is what you're saying. You see what I mean when it comes to like the suggestion of realism in video games? Oftentimes it takes away, right? I'm not talking about a realism, like a legitimate realism of video games, right? Like if I'm using a sword, like Smash Brothers, for instance, if I'm using the sword, right, like a sword character, the sword has to make sense in hitting the character, right? So if I'm swinging and any tip of the sword, any part of the sword touches the character, it should register as a hit, right? His version of suggesting realism is almost like it takes away from the gameplay. It's almost like if I was to suggest that every sword character should have like some form of realism in their gameplay, where if you're like hitting a person with the sword, instead of taking like 12% damage, or depending on like if you're doing like a short jab or a forward smash, you shouldn't take percentage damage. Your character should just outright die, because that's the realism of the game. Especially if you're talking about like a character like Pyra, who's like, if I remember correctly, like she has an extreme body weight, and that sword is like incredibly heavy. So by realism standards, right, if I swing that sword and you somehow get hit, your character should split in half. That's the kind of suggestion of realism that he often offers, where it takes away from the gameplay. It doesn't really add anything. It takes away from the gameplay. And to the point to where it's honestly anti-feminism in a way. And I say it is anti-feminism because notice how his suggestion immediately texts the male's gaze, right? Because I'm pretty sure there's some female characters out there, right? They like Eula, You probably like Eula, you like Jean, you like Yao Miko, Raiden, Ganyu. Some of the high heel wearing characters. And you're looking like that. You go, girl. You go. You go out there twirling your massive claymore, right? In such an elegant, sophisticated, high-class way, where every man shudders in fear of your sophistication and might and power of swinging this massive 5-star. And I didn't pay for this, by the way. I didn't pay for this sword, by the way. Like it's actually an anti-feminist position, right? And especially with the argument of like inserting realism in video games, I can tell you where it's gonna lead, right? They'll start with the male attacking the male gaze, right? And then once they cement themselves into the ground and they understand that, they actually have control of the area in the game, your character profiles are gonna end up having like, the pronouns. You're gonna know your birthday, the affiliation, the vision, constellation. And Eula's probably gonna be trans. No, actually no. She's from a family of who used a sophisticated, high privileged family that used slaves. So she'll more likely be a colonizer. They'll probably like make her like a villain or something. But knowing the left, right, they would probably make Eula trans, and keep the fact that she comes from like a very privileged, high sophisticated class that used slaves to gain to gain everything that they have. They'll probably like start transing, like Raiden and Yao will probably be lesbians. Jean probably won't have like that, that possible ship relationship with like Diluc. How like most people in the Genshin community, they're always doing this thing where every character is gay. Like every character, it doesn't matter. He's gay, she's gay, she's gay, she's gay, she's gay. He's definitely gay. Right? Like the idea of a heteronormative relationship scares the living daylights out of them, right? Like it scares the living daylights out of them. And you can tell, and he'll probably argue with me saying that no, I don't want, it'd be nice, if it happens, right? But I don't want the pronouns in the characters' profiles, or, I don't want all of a sudden, like, the traveler starts, waving an LGBTQ rainbow flag every now and again, or, you can go to Fontaine and it's flying over the main Capitol building or some, or not the Capitol building, but at the Opera House. You go here, you just see the trans flag hovering over the building. Right, and then when they start implementing this stuff, and people start complaining, they'll be like, "Why does it matter to you? Why is it such a big deal?" Well, it was a big deal for you to make sure that you actually got these things in here in the first place, right? Your arguments for realism, right? You attack the female gaze by literally depowering the woman, right? And then you start suggesting, pronouns. And then you start suggesting other things that don't sell video games. Thankfully, MiHoYo doesn't listen to that part of the demographic. like to my players, I mean, to the community. Like, if you like your Zalong, your Zalong Dong, if you like him, and you like old man Nevi, I'm not gonna hold it against you. You do you. You do your head canon where these two are yelling order in a restaurant, and then all of a sudden they get like hot and bothered and they start making out with each other. By all means, have that fantasy.
Osmanthus
But
wine.
don't attack the other people, right? And their fantasy. Especially considering what's that word they always fucking use? Oh yeah, hypersexualization, right? The character is hypersexualized. I like V's example. It's almost like they got all the people on the left got together with Joe Biden in a basement, and it's dark, and have the Satan statue in the background, and everyone's just chanting hypersexualization, 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 hypersexualization. And Biden's in the middle, and he starts floating. And it goes, true international shaman under pressure. And everyone's just going, hypersexualization, hypersexualization. And Vosh, he has like a rubber horse mask on. And he's banging on the drum, just going, doom, 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 doom. And then next thing you know, Biden just yells, Biden, blast! And he releases all his Biden essence on the wall, and everyone's chanting just stops as they gaze in awe behind the statue of Baphomet, right? How do you pronounce it? And in Biden's essence, the word hypersexualization was created. A word that was only meant to specifically target females. Right? And replace them with hot, plump, juicy HR ladies. Right? Keep in mind, you can have this guy, right? This is perfectly fine, right? Despite the fact that this guy is literally hypersexualized throughout the community, Because, most females, and don't get me wrong, like I said, the females can have this. And I'm pretty sure there's some guys out there that look at, wisely and goes, he's got cake. I understand. I know there's some people out there that like, a little solid snake in their bedroom, right? When they're listening to Snake Eater. All I would recommend is that you turn up the music so nobody hears what's going on, But the idea of realism in video games is quite contrived. Especially when you take into consideration that you recommend like other games with like realism that crank up the difficulty, like Fear and Hunger. Yeah, that's a game, that's an RPG, right, where you can step on a nail and your character can actually die from it, right? And if you don't have the herbs and the cloth to actually cure the infection and the bleeding, you're either going to end up with a dead character and you have to start all over, or you can take a bone saw and cut off the limb to save the character. The choice is yours. But that's not the type of realism most people are actually craving. Now is it? But that's all I really wanted to say. And, like the video. Subscribe if you like the video. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.